Folks, a very special edition of College Sports Now. We're coming to you live on MLK Day. Matt Norlander from CBS Sports, Eye on College Basketball. Podcast fame is with us. I watched so much more college basketball than Norlander over the weekend. It's not even funny. I'm also living like you, Matt, in that we are in full Arctic blast mode down here in the Piedmont of North Carolina. It is 12 degrees, wind chill in the single digits.
Really?
And this is your life for 6 months out of the year. So
Not
how
even
we doing?
Close. That's what pull up the phone. It's 12
Frigid.
right now.
I'm on the Apple Watch. It says 22 degrees, but it started in the teens this morning. I've been up since 4:30, just rise and grind, just pounding coffee.
I got you at 18 right now. If you got 22,
the wind chill, Norlander.
Feels
it's
like
coming
11
down from Siberia.
Feels like 11. Feels like 11. I'm just letting you know.
It's rough, man. I don't know how you guys do this. I really don't. But we'll discuss.
Well, first of all, it's not 6 months out of the year. I also live in Connecticut, not in the northern half of Maine. So yes, we get more snow. It's colder more often than down there in the Pede. Does anyone call it the Pede?
Oh man, no one talks like that here.
It's colder than it is down in the Pede, but yeah, it's a chilly one. Our kids are home. It's Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Kids are home, and for you YouTube watchers, if a little person scampers behind me, that's life, man. Like Norlander's kids are home too. Like we're living the dream on a Monday. It's a federal holiday.
If there are YouTube watchers, we welcome that. That's fine.
We do.
I did like the theater of the mind thing we had going on. I mean, for the first 4 seasons I did this show, I had no idea what Hartzell looked like, and then all that veil of secrecy got erased.
The suits came and knocked on my door. They said, hey, people want video.
Yeah. So, on that note, by the way, I'm so not accustomed to doing this on video that I haven't even turned on my ring light, so I'm going to do that right now.
No one cares, Norland. Like, honestly, no one cares. Although, shout out to you, they put Tic Tac back, that disappeared, and then it came back. TikTok, whatever. Also, because I'm at home, if you hear rooster in the background, if you hear chickens clucking at the windows, again, I can't help you, man. It's MLK Day. We're at home. Yeah. It's also Inauguration Day. It's also the day of the College Football Playoff National Championship in Atlanta. Norlander, you got to take Ohio State, Notre Dame. The line is 8.5.
I do. I have a take. I have a pick. I have a take on the CFP bracket, which I guess we can just get rolling on this. Why not? What a Monday. I hadn't forgotten that it is also Inauguration Day, but that's just not really registering heavily at the moment.
They moved it inside
a lot more heavily than it is.
Soft.
But between that coming off of just a really big weekend in college hoops, there's a tremendous Sunday in NFL playoffs, and now we got the CFP title game. Okay, let's go. We got plenty of college basketball to get to. That's fine. Well, let's talk CFP title game because we do this every year anyway. I want to say we do. Feel like we've done a couple of shows in the past on a Monday where the title game was that night.
This is your national championship game preview for you diehard CSN listeners. Go ahead. What you got? Empty the chamber, Norlander.
I don't have any chamber of takes on the game. I have takes on the bracket. My pick for the game, I picked Notre Dame when the whole thing started.
Wow.
So I did. I picked Notre Dame to beat Oregon. So I will go Notre Dame over a different Big Ten team. I'll say 31-26. That's going to be my official score prediction.
31-26?
31-26.
Bro, the total of both teams tonight may not reach 31, let alone Notre Dame.
Sometimes these games, 31. The nerves, all this kind of stuff, it gets a little bit wacky. You get, a 54-yard fumble recovery that you didn't expect to happen.
That's the hottest take you'll hear on this entire show, is that Notre Dame is going to beat Ohio State and score 31 points in the process. Goodness gracious. You should be drug tested.
I don't really care who wins. Sometimes I'll find myself with a rooting interest for whatever reason. And this one, I don't really have one other than it would be cool if Notre Dame won. I'm in a bracket pool that a buddy of mine set up with the hope that it would be like 20 to 25 deep, and it wound up being 8 people. On the whole notion of a CFP bracket and bracket pool, and I understand it's not, cosmetically, it's not nearly like looking at a sheet of 68 teams or anything like that. And I know people have done them. This did not catch on in year one the way that I might have expected, or at least, that's how my viewpoint here, tucked in the Northeast, which is not a college football hotbed. But nevertheless, I've been following. It feels like that was a thing overall, the lack of it being a thing. Would you agree, or do you feel like the whole pick the CFP bracket with your friends and whatever was more pronounced than maybe I picked up on?
Well, I'm a 41-year-old man, a husband and a father. I print the internet. I absolutely printed a bracket. I brought it home. My kids were into it. They were like, Dad, who's Arizona State? Why have we never heard of them? But you're right. There was no like appetite for an online bracket pool. But that's also because of the quantity, right? You got a 67 game tournament in basketball.
Yeah.
You only got, granted, it's a lot more inventory than it used to be, but you've only got 11 games in the CFP. So I'm with you, man. We'll get there. This thing's going to expand like everything else, so maybe it'll grow. Who knows?
Unfortunately, I think 12 is fine. I would have thought 8 would be permanently great, but I can live with 12. Don't expand. Don't. I'm anti-expansion on all this stuff. 12 is actually solid. Like, I'm okay with 12, although it also, do you agree, before we get to the basketball, that this has kind of always been the case, but this year it seemed even more pronounced because of the cadence of this thing and the fact that, so it's going to get played on January 20th. Mm-hmm. The first game of this thing was played the 19th, the 21st of December. It took a month. Okay. Correct. It takes a month to play. Now, you get the title game coming off of the NFL weekend, but like a lot of the reaction for today is going to be off of the fact that the Ravens and Bills lived up to the hype over the fact that the Rams-Eagles was this awesome watch in the snow, and Saquon Barkley was amazing, and the Rams almost pulled it off the fact that the Chiefs are still alive going for a three-peat, and they left enough of doubt on the table that, okay, might the Bills be able to do this? And then, obviously, the Lions shockingly just getting run and allowing 45 by the Commanders. Feels like a lot of Monday is going to be occupied by that, and then we'll get around to about. And oh, by the way, like, you've got the inauguration of the president, Martin Luther King Jr. And we'll get to like 5:45. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, this thing's going to kick off in a couple hours. I don't know what can or will be done to fix the calendar. Some things are restricted because of the way that football is played, and so you needed to get spaced out more, and the NFL just takes over so much of it. I feel like the CFP in its 12-team era, its nascent 12-team era, had a lot of really good to it, but I did feel like it was constantly in third gear, and there have certainly been years where I feel like the way I feel today. Not every year in the years past, but certainly where I'm like, oh yeah, the sports national championship game and its best team allegedly is going to get decided tonight, and I am not feeling the momentum or the volume of an on-ramp, and I'm getting that feeling in. Where do you land on that?
That's a lot to digest. I will say this: the college football postseason is way too long. I'm with you. It used to be, hey, let's get through Thanksgiving. Then you've got conference championship games first Saturday in December, and then we got a month off until the Natty. Now it's, hey, first-round playoff games. Let's get up for that. Oh, New Year's 6. Let's get up for that. Semis. Ohio State and Notre Dame are both playing their 4th college football playoff game tonight. It's too much. It's too much. I'm sure the ratings will be great because Notre Dame is a international brand. Ohio State, obviously, kind of a coast-to-coast following as well. So don't get fooled by the ratings. I'm with you, buddy. Now, I will say this. Unlike college basketball's national championship game that tips off at midnight, they're cranking this thing up at 7:45 Eastern. That's kick time.
That's a good
kick time. It
says
7:30. It's kicking at 7:45 Eastern. I've already seen the timing sheet. Don't come at me with anything.
7:45 kick.
7:45 kick. You heard it here
by
first.
The way, is usually a 9:20. I feel like that might have been bumped up to like 9:13, 9:14 tip, but I understand what you're saying.
That's when halftime will be of tonight's game. I'm just saying, talk to your people, Norlander. Get that fixed.
Not my people. It's not my people.
My official pick for the game, I'm rooting for Notre Dame. I just think they've got some pixie dust there with Marcus Freeman and just they're overachieving. Like they're a one-dimensional team. They run the football and they do it very well. They're going to have their hands full tonight. So I would not be shocked if this thing is lopsided when it's all said and done. That's okay. I am ready to put college football to bed. I've been ready mentally. It's been a long season. The transfer portal, the coaching carousel, it is nonstop, man. And this is a sport that I love, but needs some help, needs some leadership, needs some guidance. The calendar is it's too much. December's exhausting.
My sport. I mean, it's never gonna be never ending. And this is a topic for another show and another day. But there's now renewed skepticism and concern over whether this house case settlement goes the way that people thought it was going to go. And if it doesn't, it just blows up the entire forecast of the economic model that was supposed to kick in later this year. Again, that's another show.
You sound tired, Norlander. You sound exhausted by
not that tired
not
or
being able to talk about what's happening on the hardwood, baby.
No, we're getting to the hardwood right now. As we get to the hardwood, and to everyone that's listening to the show, we appreciate you. And anyone that listens to the show and listens to Eye on College Basketball, you are aware of the fact that on Saturday, I went into New York City. It was my wife's birthday. Took her in.
Do you say New York City if you live in Connecticut? You just say, babe, we're going into the city tonight.
Yeah,
Let's go.
The city. Yeah, or we're going. Well, we might like. She might have told a friend like we're going into New York or something. You wouldn't say the words in order, New York City. But for folks that might be listening around the greater Pede area, obviously,
God, dude, you gotta stop
and out
that.
west in Texas. And I know we've got an absolute foothold in the Dakotas right now. Just wanted to be very clear about this. The point is this: went into the city, had a great time. Caught the Book of Mormon, which was very good, very funny. Had never seen it. Went to a jazz club. There you go. You got it. You got
dance,
it.
or did you just like sip cocktails?
No. Watch this
table?
band called Yellow Jackets, which was formed in like the 70s, and the only one that's still it's a 4-piece. The only guy that's still in the band that actually started the band is the keyboard player. They were awesome. Really, really cool stuff. And we sat next to these Australians. Nothing but great things, by the way, to say about it,
mate.
Across the board. Like the few times I've been able to travel internationally, I've run into Australians for whatever reason, for one reason or other, in all these countries, and they're just always amazing. These folks worked in nuclear engineering. They had landed, I guess, that morning or the morning before. It was 11 in the morning their time, so they were looking to get out all night because they were on a massively different clock. It was there was one dude that was like, I want to say early 30s. The woman looked to be late 30s, and then the guy was definitely like early 60s. I asked if they'd ever been. I was like, oh yes. And I'm not going to do an Australian accent at this time in the morning. But he said he had estimated he had taken at least 250 flights to the United States in his life from Australia. Incredible. Anyway, did all that. I bring this up to say I didn't watch a lot of hoop, which is very rare for me. Even walking back to the hotel late after the Jazz Club, wanted to get back. It was just it wasn't that late. I mean, the Lions Commanders game was almost over. And so I was like, let's get back. I want to see what this might be going on in this football game. As we're doing that, we passed this other Broadway show. It's called All In. We're walking. There's like this huge throng of people outside. And I was like, what's this all about? I asked this woman. She's like, there's Nick Kroll up there. And there's like this new musical with Nick Kroll, John Mulaney, Lin-Manuel Miranda. So all these people were waiting. And my wife, who is not wired like this whatsoever, and was of complete and sober and sound mind, she opted not to have one drink on her birthday. She goes, should I just yell over the people like, I didn't see the play, but I loved you in the league? I was like, you can do that, but I'm not going to advise it. She opted against it. Did you ever watch the league, by the way?
No, I heard it was good.
It was solid. It was like,
didn't make the list.
It was yeah, I enjoyed it. It was like a low budget fantasy football quasi-based comedy on FX. That was, I think, Nick Kroll's breakout. Anyway, it was a fun Saturday in New York.
Totally devoid of live college basketball.
The only college basketball I had was I went and saw the billboard with my name on it and my face on it. Not my name. GP and I have a billboard in Times Square, so I got to take a picture under that, which was a surreal moment, man.
But it's been heavily the visual has been heavily edited because Gary Parrish is like a foot and a half shorter than you in real life.
We don't even need to get into that.
I'm just saying, like, I've seen
there's
the guy
some
in
heavy
person.
edit.
He's shorter than me, and I'm a short king, and he's shorter than I am.
So by the way, I look at Parrish, I know him, but like from the first time I ever saw him, I knew that he was short. I look at you, I don't see someone that's short. Like you look like you're
I'm an athlete, Norlander.
You look like you're a solid 5'11". You know, I don't think you're that short.
I would love to be 5'11".
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's just not the case. Okay, so here's the deal with college basketball. I watched a lot of it. Saturday delivered the goods, and in chronological order, like the noon game.
Yeah,
right, straight out of the chute. Alabama, Kentucky heavyweight bout. Like, are you kidding me? What was the final score? 102-97. Let's go. Right out of the gates. You had UConn getting upset at home. by Creighton. That's their first home loss of the season, first home loss in like 2 years, I think, for the Huskies. So, like, right out of the chute, you were like, okay, buckle up, let's go. So I watched games. I didn't make it to, like, Gonzaga, Santa Clara, although we'll talk about the Zags because, my goodness, what's happening out there? I watched basketball for like a solid 8 hours on Saturday. So it delivered. SEC was great, up and down the board, fantastic theater. So where do you want to start, man? You want to start in the SEC? You want to talk Big Ten? You want to talk Big East? You want to talk Big 12? Where you want to go, Big Dog?
You know what? Let's not start in the SEC, specifically because for those that listen to the CBS pod, we did start in the SEC there. Let's go Big Ten first, and you kind of take it from there. I did my prep and I caught up on plenty of stuff, but yeah, man, like I want you to steer the ship. Give me your thoughts, give me your takes, what you saw go down there, because I have plenty of opinions on what's happened here, but when it comes to actually, reference points in the games and all that kind of stuff, this is the rare weekend where I'm out to lunch on that.
All right, we'll set the SEC aside. We all know it's the best conference in college basketball this year anyway. We don't need to harp on that point. To the Big Ten we go. I watched Michigan State, Illinois on Sunday. I understand that statistically, in terms of the standings, Sparty is the king of the Big Ten right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're that good, though.
Okay, this is classic Hartzell.
I mean, they beat Illinois, but how do you pronounce my guy's name? Jacquelinas?
Oh, here we go. That's what people come to the show for. Kasparis Yakachonis. Kasparis, say it with me. Kasparis Yakachonis.
We don't need to worry about the first name. Jackachunas.
Say it back to me. Kasparis Yakachonis.
Kasparis Jackachunas was
No. Yakachonis.
Yaki. He was held in check, man.
It's Lithuanian. He's one hell of a player. He's going to be top 5 in the NBA draft this year, I think.
Well, that's awesome because if he's Lithuanian, that means you knew he grew up with some tie-dyed basketball jerseys. You just know. Like, if you know, you know. All right? He was held in check. Sparty escapes. They win by 2. Illinois is a tough team, though, man. Like I was impressed. Breslin Center was rocking, all that stuff. It was good. It was fine. But I look at the Big Ten, and I ask you part of a larger question. By the way, Michigan beat Northwestern. It took overtime. The 5-minute overtime period took 30 minutes of real time. That's not an exaggeration. Like that's an absolute fact. I was watching it.
I'm aware because I was supposed to go live once the game was over, and we thought it would be over by 2:15, and it was. I think we went up to like 2:32 or something like that.
Dude, it was insane. It's just absolutely insane.
It's a thing now. It's been a thing. It continues to be a thing.
You're exhausted by it. That's fine.
I'm exhausted by it, and we have so much more to go in this season, and then we have to fix this. Yeah.
So here's the thing about the Big Ten as a whole. You got Michigan State. They're the only undefeated team in the league. Wisconsin's won 7 in a row. Purdue beat Oregon in Eugene. That was a pair of top 20 teams on Saturday. Indiana, I mean, those folks have turned on Mike Woodson. It's gotten spicy in Bloomington. I understand they've gotten blown out. And then out in L.A., you got Mick Cronin just, the guy's a stand-up comedian at the podium these days. Like, he's just, he's on an absolute heater. So the Big Ten is fascinating to me. I still really like Michigan. I know that they lost to last place Minnesota earlier in the week.
Yes.
What's your take on the Big Ten? Like, what are your Norlander power rankings for the Big Ten? This massive 18-team league, which, again, as a reminder, if you're 16th, 17th, or 18th in the regular season standings, you're not part of the conference championship tournament this year.
As it should be. I want to commend the Big Ten, and they better not go back on this. You don't need to send 18 teams to your league tournament. 15's even too many, but I'll accept it in the context of an 18-team league.
Where do you want to make the cutoff? You want to cut it off at 12? 14?
14 and give the 1 and 2 buys. Yeah, that's what I would do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's fair. Your team's at the bottom, Minnesota, Washington. Northwestern is actually, borderline a top 50 team in the country, but it is 2-5 in the league right now. Penn State, Nebraska, Ohio State, these are all 2-5 teams in the league. Whatever. Rutgers is 3-4, but it rates even worse than most of the teams I just gave you there. They're 10-8. They're not heading to the NCAA tournament, despite having top 5 picks on the roster. That's never happened, by the way. There's never been a team with 2 top 5 picks that hasn't made the tournament.
Hey, listen, Norlander, they win 4 games in 4 days. They're in. Okay, crazier things have happened. See NC State last year.
It'd be a hell of a. It wouldn't, and I guess it wouldn't be totally stunning, but in the context of what the Big Ten is this season, it would be pretty surprising. Penn State plays at Rutgers plays at Penn State tonight here on Monday.
Of course they do.
If they get that, then they're home to Michigan State. They're at Northwestern, home to Michigan, home to Illinois. Like they've got opportunities here, but they're probably going to, they've won 2-3 in a row. They're probably going to lose like 2 of their next 3 at least. As for the top, quick thoughts on Michigan State, Illinois, and I'll get into the power rankings here. Michigan State has tremendous balance. It was the benefit of a good home crowd. A little bit of a home whistle as well, but MSU gets to 16-2. I think you're probably aware of this, but if folks listening might not be aware of it, it's not just that this team is 16-2. It hasn't lost since I saw them in Maui back in November. Michigan State has won 11 in a row, the only team with a longer winning streak in the country. Your Duke Blue Devils, which have won 12 straight and had no issues, again, expectedly so, against Boston College. And so as a result, Michigan State lost against Kansas in the Champions Classic on November 12th. And then I saw them lose against Memphis. And Memphis really, it was a pretty convincing performance. That was on a Tuesday on November 26th. So if Michigan State can win at Rutgers this weekend, it will have gone 2 months without an L. And while that's happened a couple of times in Tom Izzo's career, it will mark a rarity. It is rare that his team will have ever gone 2 straight months without taking an L. They got to do it on the road. Then they got Minnesota next week at home. They'll obviously win that. Illinois, Michigan State was a wonderful way to wrap up a college basketball weekend. There were other games later in the day, like Michigan got past Northwestern, and that was a tight affair, and it would have been a little bit of a
Shout out to the American who had their best team playing right in the middle of NFL playoffs on Sunday.
You have this lament every year. I believe the American does this again when the Super Bowl's going.
They used to do it with Houston. Now they're doing it with Memphis. Sunday football or Sunday basketball in late January, early February. Let's go. Unbelievable.
I know. No shame in the loss for Illinois, which is probably going to be my projection on this. Illinois is 13-5. It's lost 2 of its past 3. It randomly got beat soundly by USC last weekend, and that was now that Yakachonis wasn't playing in that game. Then it came back. It beat Indiana by 25 and caused the sky to fall in Bloomington. And now it lost at Michigan State. Understandable, but it's got the schedule upcoming is in Illinois' favor, and it should be able to turn this around. What I'm saying is, I think Illinois will wind up being like a 3, 4, or 5 seed, but it will be a trendy Final Four pick, despite not being on the 1 or 2 line. That's my projection, partly because Yakachonis is that good. Defensively, this team is really solid. Kylan Boswell's a good backcourt mate next to him, and they've got Tomislav Ivicic, who's really coming into his own as a big 7-1. They've got Ben Humrickhouse, who, that name, by the way, you tell me there's a dude named Humrickhouse and tell me what league he plays in. I'm like, that's one of the most Big Ten names I've ever heard in my entire life.
That's
Ben Humrickhouse.
That's correct.
He's a good player, good 3-point shooter, and he's going to help Illinois as well. So that was a competitive game that took way too long to finish. Power ranking the Big Ten right now, I would say I would still go Michigan 1. I'd go Michigan 1. Purdue 2, Michigan State 3, Illinois 4, and man, they are just jammed together. Michigan, Purdue, Michigan State, Illinois 4. Then give me, I think Oregon 5.
Wow, I thought Oregon was on fraud alert watch. What?
They're quasi fraud. I'm putting them narrowly ahead of Wisconsin at 6.
Who they just lost to? No, Wisconsin beat USC, the West Coast team.
Yeah, that's all right.
Badgers have won 7 in a row. Watch out.
And then give me UCLA and then Maryland.
No,
I think that's the order.
No.
Yeah.
No.
What do you mean?
UCLA's 12-6, man. They're sub 500.
Yeah, but I'm not talking like in the here and now. I'm projecting like when we get to the end. I think it's going to swing in Cronin's direction. Although he's got to get it together.
Was this question planted? Like, are you kidding me? Cronin, go back and watch because it was a Friday night game because the Big Ten scheduling model.
It was so Well, on that note, Big Ten is the only high major league that plays a game on every single day of the week this season. Like, there's no Thursday games for any of the other power conferences. The Big Ten has to do this because of travel. This is why the Big Ten has to do it.
18-team league, man, coast to coast.
It was a Friday. It was Friday night, and then until I did the pod for CBS yesterday, I didn't even know he said this. I learned it in real time on that show. I'll tell you, listen, it is content. It's giving me something to react to multiple times per week. He gave me stuff that was much more measured in Maryland, and I ran a story on it, and that got a lot of run last week. In fact, I think because of what the court report had inside of it, it prompted follow-up questions at the next available media session for him, which was after an easy Iowa win. Right. And so folks are obviously, he said, I want to know who did the schedule. I understand it's not easy to do the schedule. I hope it breaks our way. Here's the logistical stuff that we had to deal with. And now he's fuming over the fact that when he looks out his plane window 2 times in the past 3 weeks, he's seen the Statue of Liberty below. don't have Mick Cronin having the Statue of Liberty within his line of sight, or else he's gonna go off. It's gonna be a problem for everyone. So he can't help and stop himself. He's gonna only heap more criticism the more he continues to do this. But knock on wood, this should slow down. They are on the West Coast for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at their schedule now. They go to Illinois on February 11th. So they don't get on a plane to fly somewhere outside their time zone until February 10. And that'll be a tough swing. Illinois and then Indiana. And we'll see how all that goes.
Well, you brought up Indiana. Obviously 0-2 during the week. Tough scene. The natives are very restless in Bloomington. And listen, Norlander, rightfully so. As we've learned, Indiana is a football school now. I mean, they expect to win, and they expect to win by a lot. So when you're getting blown out in your building and you got Illinois hanging 90+ on you, what's going on with Mike Woodson, man?
Mike Woodson is facing an end that I think is inevitable. I believe that Indiana will make a coaching change at the end of this season. He's an alum, so I don't know if they will actually fire him in season. That fan base cares so much that if it really goes bad, I could see that being possible. But as a reminder, the team is 14-5.
Yeah.
If you don't follow college basketball, I'm not even saying daily or even weekly. If you are the type of person that just kind of like has it flicker your radar maybe once or twice a week until you get to the NCAA tournament, and for whatever reason talk of Mike Woodson hits and you're like, wow, they must be bad. Oh wait, they're 14-5. The problem is they got boat raced in back-to-back games against Iowa and Illinois. They're 5-3 in the league. They did win by 1 in overtime at a disappointing Ohio State team on last Friday night. A quick aside, in the preseason, I wondered if this is what Ohio State would be like in the context of the Big Ten, a non-factor, not a top 7 or 8 team. And that is the way it's going. They're 2-5. They've got a new coach, Jake Diebler, who we talk about in-season firings. Chris Holtman had that a year ago. Diebler got the interim. They got hot. They kept him. We'll see if he can get them back on track in the years ahead. If you really want, if we're encapsulating a whole bunch of stuff in this pod, earlier references, if you really wanted a team that could pull off like an NC State from a conference tournament perspective, I actually think Ohio State's talent is the one that I would identify as opposed to Rutgers. But it's still highly unlikely, and they blew a big time opportunity to maybe steady stuff on Friday. Instead, Indiana gets the win, and now they're 14-5. But now they got to play at Northwestern. Indiana does on Wednesday. They're home against Maryland on Sunday. They're at Purdue. They're at Wisconsin. They're home to Michigan, and they're at Michigan State. So only with the exception of the Northwestern game, 5 of their next 6, and really even beyond that because they're home to UCLA and home to Purdue. So 7 of their next 8 games are against top 7 teams in the Big Ten. This record is going to get worse. The discontent is going to get noisier, and it's a general lack of playing up to expectations. There's also the problem that Indiana did not schedule in the non-conference nearly to the level of the team that it was projected to be. And so because it's non-conference schedule, I'm not going to say it was trash, but it was it was the remnants of what will become trash as you are walking toward the garbage can. They had too many poor teams, quad 3, quad 4 opponents in non-con play. And then when they played Louisville and Gonzaga in the battle for Atlantis, they lost both of those games. Like they beat Providence in that 3-game MTE back in November. That's a Q2 win at best, and actually I think it's probably a quad 3 right now with where Providence sits. So the fans aren't happy. This was a team picked in the preseason top 25. It was a team that many Indiana fans cautiously and against their better judgment, but kind of went along with the ride of like, this should be a top 2 team in the Big Ten this season, and it is not. It is not even close to that, and it can change the entire perspective of its season if it can get through this next stretch over the next month and lose only 1 or 2 games in that stretch. If it can come out of this 5-2, 6-2, something like that, and really have a strong schedule, that would be, frankly, I would love to cover an Indiana team that was doing that and overshooting expectations. But the fact is, this program has been undershooting expectations for years and years and years and years, and now we're looking at a scenario where if Indiana does not make the NCAA tournament, Mike Woodson will definitely be fired. And even if it does make the tournament, but if it goes to Dayton for the first 4, or if it's sitting on the 10 or 11 line and doesn't win a tournament game, I still think in that scenario they will make a coaching change.
Okay, well, there you go. Things are not looking good in Bloomington. Again, you have Kurt Cignetti to blame for all of this. Okay, the guy starts off your football season in 11-0. I mean, yes, Indiana got knocked out of the CFP, but who did they lose to, Norlander? Number 1 and number 2 teams in the land. Okay, the 2 teams playing for a natty. That's it. Pretty solid football campaign, it should be said, for the Indiana Hoosiers. And now Mike Woodson is getting chewed out at home. It's tough. It's a tough scene. There's your Big Ten roundup. Can I talk ACC basketball with you?
Of course.
Look, I live in the Piedmont of North Carolina, okay? It's 8 degrees outside.
Not.
We all know about Duke. Look, everybody knows about Duke. Like you
I
said,
love
they've
Duke.
won how many games in a row? 13? They're hot. Cooper Flagg did his thing again over the weekend in Boston College, as one does. What was the stat line? 28, 5, 4, 2, and 2. Okay, he's the goods. We all know this. Did you see what happened in North Carolina over the weekend? Did you see what happened to the Heels at the Dean Dome against longtime ACC foe Stanford? They lost to the Cardinal. Maxime Reynaud. If you don't know, now you know about Reynaud. This dude statistically has got better numbers than Cooper Flagg. He's not going to win ACC Player of the Year.
He's a beast. All right, so here we go. And as we dive into this, I want to make it clear to our listeners here. If you do the CBS pod, specifically like with almost every Monday show, I want to give you stuff that we didn't talk on the CBS show that you can get here. These are obviously not going to be the most high headline items here, but we didn't get into this Stanford UNC result on that pod. And Maxime Reynaud is a beast of a player. I had to send in a list of the 50 Player of the Year candidates for the United States Basketball Writers Association last Friday. And I basically sent in like, all right, here are 40 names that have to be on the list. And here's a bunch of other ones that are like kind of flirting on the line. Reynaud was not flirting on the line. He was on the list. 20.8 points per game, 11.6 rebounds per game. And Stanford's not that good. But this French big has been awesome this season, playing entirely under the radar. And yet here's Stanford going in and getting a win on the road to get to 12-6, beating UNC on its home floor, getting the buzzer beater it wasn't technically a buzzer beater, but Jalen Blakes hits it. His sister, who plays for Vanderbilt, also hit a game-winning shot. I have to believe this is the first time ever that siblings have hit game winners on the same weekend ever and at the D1 level. Really, really cool stuff there. I hijacked you entirely there, but
no,
yeah,
it's fine.
This was the one. Well, I brought it up to say this. This was the one result of the most impact that we didn't get to on Sunday's CBS pod that I wanted to dive into here, because if you're Carolina, you can't have this, man. You're now 12-7, 5-2 in the league, and you had only had one loss. Prior to this, you had one loss in a little over a month. So you had been playing well for the most part. You got beat soundly at Louisville. But then you have a team in Stanford that comes across the country and comes into your building and beats you on a day where Ian Jackson plays poorly, and that's a freshman, and you should not need to be rely on Ian Jackson to beat what's probably going to be a bottom half of the ACC team when you're playing at home. RJ Davis did fine. Elliot Cadeau was solid enough, but across the board, they didn't shoot well from 3-point range. they didn't rebound to the level that they probably should have against a Stanford team that it's got, Reynaud, who's a real beast. But other than that, they don't have a lot of legitimate size there. You watched the game. What did you see? Give me your thoughts on anything tied to it.
Well, I've been on Kyle Smith for years. You know this.
You have.
Okay?
Yes, you have.
Kyle Smith took Washington State to the round of 32 last year in the NCAA tournament. You know how hard that is? Like, do you have any idea how difficult that is? He gets the job at Stanford. He flees Pullman for Palo Alto, going from one, just hotbed college sports community to another. I kid, because Pullman's a bigger college sports town than Palo Alto. Anyway, my point is that dude can flat out coach, and he overachieves. So I'm not surprised that Stanford got it done, but the bigger story, yes, to your point, Norlander, is that North Carolina loses. And without looking it up, do you know where North Carolina plays on Tuesday night?
I don't know where North Carolina plays on Tuesday night.
They're coming to the Joel, okay? And that place is going to be an absolute hornet's nest. Wake Forest has won 7 in a row. Folks around here are starting to believe, okay?
Yeah.
And North Carolina, if you don't know, is probably the second biggest home game draw for Wake Forest athletics all year long, okay?
Other than NC State, of course. Obviously.
Other than Duke, who comes on Saturday. And I'm here to tell you, man, Tie-Dye Nation might be back. It might be back. I got a lot of Wake Forest folks who listen to the
Nation
show,
has thought to have been back
like,
multiple times over the past few years.
Stand by here. Stand by. You're out of your element, Donnie. I have a lot of Wake Forest folks who listen to the show. They don't want to talk about Wake Forest basketball because they don't want to get hurt. All right? The Deacs have won 7 in a row. All right? Hunter Salas is on an absolute heater. Check the stats.
He is.
6 straight games of 20+. They won at Virginia Tech. Had to have it at the Castle. You got Duke on Saturday, UNC on Tuesday.
Yes.
Don't poop down your leg, Wake. Don't do it.
There is a feces on the calf situation here.
It's possible.
It's home UNC, home Duke. If they can win both of those, incredible. They'll become one of the biggest stories in the sport in the window for the upcoming week if they win both of them. But then they're at Louisville, home to Pitt, slippery game.
Slippery.
Pitt has I think Pitt's lost 4 in a row. And then they're at Stanford and they're at Cal for the cross country West Classic
spicy.
ACC West Coast swing. That's from now to February 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are 6. What they have right now in front of them are 6 games that are both winnable and losable. Like they feel equal weight for results, knowing Wake Forest on that. They're 14-4. You got to get through the stretch at 4-2. You get to 20-6.
Let's go.
You'll be in a spot where you are projected to make the NCAA tournament at that point in time. 3-3 or worse, and we still got some issues to work through here.
Well, you got to make the NCAA tournament. You're Steve Forbes. You've been in Winston-Salem for now 5 years. You have 0 NCAA tournament appearances. The window is now, son. You got to have it, man.
Now. It is
Hunter
now.
Salas is the best player you've had in this program during your stretch, and this is his last season.
We were talking Stanford UNC, and you directed the conversation.
We're talking about the top of the ACC, which needs some love because other than Duke, you have 0 ranked teams, right? Nobody's going to sneak into the top 25 this week. AP poll isn't out yet.
It will only be Duke again.
Yeah.
No. Clemson. Let's see what Clemson did here. Clemson won
3 in a row. They won at Pitt. They won on the road.
Clemson's actually, you know what? We're, as usual, Monday morning taping before the AP Top 25 comes out. Clemson wins 78-75 against Pitt. Chase Hunter plays well again. He's a first-team All-ACC player. Ian Shefflin had a good game. Yeah, Pitt has gone from 12-2 to 12-6. That's a problem, man. They are a better team than 12-6 with the schedule that they've had so far. So they need to fix some stuff quick. I think Clemson will be in the AP Top 25, which will end a 2 or 3 week drought for that conference, only having Duke representing the league. You've got 18 teams in your league, and only 1 team was in the rankings. That was a disgrace. So I think Clemson will get in and break in there. Anything else in the ACC other than okay?
Yes. Did you? I know you were in the city on Saturday. Okay, you were taking in plays. You were hanging out at jazz clubs. You're talking to Aussies. Did you see what happened in South Florida with SMU and Miami? Did you look at the score?
I saw it. So I saw the score. When I checked this. So when I was taking the train ride back Sunday morning with my wife from New York to Connecticut.
So you spent the night in the city?
Oh yeah.
Baby.
Got a hotel, the whole thing. Used points, free hotel room, took advantage. It was one of those use it or lose it. I had to use it by the end of January, so we took advantage. Yeah, absolutely. And not only did we
I love that for you, man. I do.
It was great, but what we did not know is we stayed in the Sheraton. It's like three streets, 3 blocks away from Times Square. There was a middle school girls dance competition. This place was overrun by families and their daughter. And we had one time we were in an elevator with a family from Georgia. Another time it's a family from Oklahoma. I was like, God bless these parents that are flying. This must have been nationals on some sort of level. So like they were probably the best dance teams in their states or whatever it was. The scene outside the elevator to get up and down constantly was something else. Anyway,
it sounds like hell. I want to talk SMU Miami, Norlander.
Anyway, the point is this. Yes, we stayed overnight and then we took the train back. And then I'm going through, I'm checking the scores, and I'm doing some pod prep, and I'm checking up on everything. Solid 80-minute train ride back home, so I had plenty of time to dig in. And I see this score. And I say, SMU went to Coral Gables and scored 117 points on Miami.
Sure did.
Miami ceased to have a basketball program for about a decade and a half. And from the 70s into the 80s, they might need to consider this again. They have allowed 206 points in their past 2 games. 206! It's a disgrace. Jim Larinaga pulled the ripcord, and the entire house is folded in on itself. That will be a program that is completely reborn with who the hell knows coaching it next season. And I think SMU is fraudy, personally. But I will say this. I don't care how bad you are as a D1 team. You go in to an opponent's arena in league play and you manage to get 117, that is notable. I will give you that.
Thank you.
I don't know if SMU is going to make the tournament or not. Their record's fine enough. The resume is lacking at this point, but 117 is outrageous.
They had 60 at halftime. They shot 69% for the game. Nice. Miami's a corpse. I don't know what else to say. It's a tough scene. I hate it for those young men, but of all the scores from the weekend, thank you for validating my pre-show nugget that I had on SMU Miami. Because, I know you and GP don't like to talk about a lot of ACC basketball because you have to cater to the Big East crowd up there.
That's not true.
But SMU Miami made the show, so you're welcome.
Of course it's going to make the show. Can we talk Big East, by the way?
Yeah, we can talk Big East. Obviously, notable losses. Marquette at home to Xavier. UConn at home to Creighton. Jays seem to have the Huskies' number for whatever reason. They beat them in Omaha last year. But, the top of the Big East got shuffled up a little bit over the weekend. So, your takeaways from the results.
No. You said you were dialed in, so I presume that you had these games on the TV, the tube. Can you give reports of what it was like to watch these two play out?
So, basically, both of the teams that won on away, Xavier at Marquette and Creighton at UConn, led pretty much wire to wire in the second half. Marquette made a run. UConn made a run. But at no point, maybe there was like a possession or two where UConn had like a 1-point lead. Marquette never led. And, it was just gritty basketball. It was just impressive stuff on the road. Teams executing, making free throws. If you don't watch college basketball like year-round, of which I am guilty, like I'm not locked into, Atlantic Sun hoops in November like Norlander is, you got to make free throws, man. Like the teams with high basketball IQs win road games. It's tough, man, especially when it's 8-on-5. Like you're not getting the whistle. It's a challenge, but like.
Why can't that ever be like at least 6-on-7? You got one ref on your side going against 2. I feel like it's always 8-on-5. I feel like it might be a 7-on-6.
Maybe. I'll grant you there might be a lone wolf in the crew.
Yeah. Rogue zebra out there.
But by and large, like Creighton, well coached, well schooled. Xavier was supposed to be better than they are this year, right?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Correct.
So that's them playing up to their level of potential. But Marquette was the only undefeated team in Big East play. Shaka Smart and them boys, and that building gets rocking. But if you're up by 10, if you're up by 12, if you're up by 14, that place isn't. It's not as hostile an environment as it can be. So credit to those teams for going wire on the wire or wire to wire, and winning on the road. Not easy to do.
I'm looking at the box score on both these, so let's go Xavier Marquette first. 59-57, X-Men win. They were 11-16 from the foul line. Marquette on its home floor only gets to the foul line 7 times, 3 of 7 from the field, from the free throw line. Meanwhile, 3-point shooting, Marquette 8 of 29. Xavier went 2 of 17 against Marquette and won the game. That's crazy. Getting Zach Freemantle back has been big, and I mean, really, really big for Xavier, because when he initially got hurt earlier this season, the thought was that he might be done until mid to late February, if not March, and he returned way ahead of pace, which has been massive. And keep an eye on Xavier, because it was a top 30-ish kind of team heading into the season. It got out to a 6-0 start, and then they took on just loss after loss after loss. And next thing they knew, we got to Christmas, and they were an 8-5 team, and they had injury issues, and it looked like it was just going to be a lost season. Now they've won 3 in a row. They've got a biggie Wednesday night at St. John's.
First place St. John's.
First place St. John's. The Johnnies, I've had some preseason misses on some teams, and I don't run from that, but I said St. John's would be a top 15 team. That proved to be right. Now, that said, I also said Wake Forest would be a top 15 team. They're not there yet.
We've already talked about the Deacs. Okay?
Correct. I know. I'm aware. I'm just saying, for the Johnnies, which I nailed, the Wake Forest at this point,
Wake Forest is where they should be right now. They've got a big next 2-3 weeks.
We've already talked
check
about
back on the
We've
Deacs.
already talked about
Tie-Dye Nation might be back.
How about UConn? It only gets 5 foul shots. It went 5 for 5 from the foul line. Creighton went 14 of 15 from the charity stripe to get it done. Ryan Kalkbrenner had himself a nice game, but Jamia Neal with 24 points. That was his best game in a Creighton uniform. And yeah, McDermott is 8-2. I had the stat yesterday. 8-2 against Dan Hurley all time. So he's done well against his teams and been able to take advantage there. Those were big results. In fact, let's play a game here right quick. All right. We can still bounce around the conferences, but I wanted to ask you. I wanted the Hartzell vibes check, okay? I'm going to give you teams that won as underdogs or not on Saturday, okay? And you're going to tell me whether the win signifies that the team is for real. And by for real, I mean they're going to make the tournament. They're going to play better on the second half of the season than they did prior to getting the upset on Saturday. You follow me?
Yes, I'm with you.
Let's start with the Big East. Xavier, for real?
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Creighton, for real?
Yes.
Okay,
Dude, you go to Gamble and win? Like, that hadn't happened in 2 years.
Okay.
Just saying. Tough.
Texas Tech beats Arizona. It was on their home floor.
Texas Tech plays better at home than they do on the road. I mean, like, Lubbock is a tough place to go.
They won at home. For real?
I'm going to say no.
They're top 20 at KenPom, by the way.
Man,
they're an interesting team.
You got to live your life outside of Excel spreadsheets, man. I'm just saying.
I'm just telling you.
What do the eyes tell you, Norlander? What do the eyes
that's
tell you?
That's how you get caught sometimes. You gotta trust both. West Virginia beats Iowa State, also home court.
I knew you were going to go here.
West Virginia for real?
West Virginia's got some nice wins this year, man. I'm going to say yes.
I think I'm with you on that.
Gonzaga, Arizona. They just knocked off the number 2 team in the land. Like, I know Arizona's been disappointing, but, like, yeah, I'm going to say yes, man.
Another team with the home win, unranked. This is the most compelling of them all. Is Vanderbilt for real? Beats Tennessee 76.
I mean, listen, I love their coach. I mean, we don't need to rehash the 30-win season in Harrisonburg last year.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no. And the reason I say no is because the SEC is an absolute meat grinder, okay? And so Vanderbilt might be like the 12th best team in the SEC, which I don't know, man. I'm going to say no. I think if you're in the NCAA tournament and you see Vanderbilt as your matchup, you're more excited about that than you are 10 other SEC teams. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes really good sense. Vanderbilt hasn't had this good of a start in more than 15 seasons, though.
It's an impressive thing that they're doing. They led Tennessee by 14 points with 5 minutes to go. Again, in terms of the amount of basketball that your boy consumed on Saturday.
They almost folded. I didn't realize that was the case.
Yeah, they got real tight.
Okay.
It took a block late to kind of seal the win. But But Tennessee, like, we're going to have this discussion, and you and I have been doing this show for 5 years, 6 years.
I think this is year 6, by the way. I did the math.
Okay, I knew it was pre-COVID, but, like, we're going to do the thing with Tennessee that we do every year. I know they made the Elite Eight last year, and that's what you're supposed to do when you're, what, a 2 seed, 3 seed? Tennessee's got the goods, man. They got guys. Like, Zakai Ziegler's still playing basketball. That man's 35 years old. Like, he's been there for a decade. I love Tennessee's pieces. But, man, like, the first half against Georgia earlier in the week, I mean, they trailed Georgia at home. Like, they have these bouts where they just go scoreless for, like 5-6 minutes of game time. Like, it happened again at Memorial Gym on Saturday. They had this big lead in the first half, and then they just, like a turtle, like just going into its shell. They just shut it down. I don't know. I know the SEC is very good, and Tennessee is one of the SEC's best, but they're not Bama. They're not Auburn. I think they're not Florida. I don't know. We're going to have this discussion with Tennessee. We do it every year, I feel like. And the last couple of years we've done it.
Maybe. I mean, listen, Tennessee got to the Elite Eight last season, lost to 1 seed Purdue. If they had been in a non-UConn, non-Purdue region, they probably would have made the Final Four. So I'm not going to hold last.
That's not how it worked. We can't say that Josh Allen would have 4 Super Bowl rings if he didn't have to deal with Patrick Mahomes.
I know. That's not how this works. But on that same note, there's nothing wrong with being either the second or the third best. Okay, you're just not the best, but we can put it in context. Okay?
But in a sport, Norlander, where you are measured by Final Fours, like Rick Barnes needs to get to a Final Four to validate what he has done at Tennessee, especially in the last half decade, where they've been one of the game's elites. I actually do not
believe that is the case.
Really?
I disagree with that statement. I do not believe that Rick Barnes needs to make the Final Four to validate his success and his impact at Tennessee, because Tennessee had a nice run under Bruce Pearl. Then he gets fired. They bring in Donnie Tyndall. It is an outright disaster. Okay. And in the midst of all, and he gets a 10-year show cause and all this stuff.
Did not have Donnie Tyndall on my pre-show bingo card. Well done.
Well, there you go. They managed to get Rick Barnes, who had run his course at Texas. I am not tossing off the fact that this dude until last season was a 500 NCAA tournament coach. Okay. That's been the case. But since he has gotten to Tennessee, the Volunteers have gone through, unquestionably, their longest sustained run of success as a program. And a Final Four would be an appropriate capper to that if he can make it happen. But he has been really, really, really good. And he has had multiple draft picks on his roster. And they have won SEC championships. They have consistently ranked near the top as a defensive unit in the country. So I do not believe, and I don't think Tennessee fans do either. Well, obviously they're hungry for it and practically begging to get there. He has had the Tennessee program, which otherwise would be understandably just a middle of the pack team in the conference nationally. He has had that team ranked in the top 10 to 15, I want to say more weeks than not since he got the job, certainly in the past 5-6 seasons, and he's done a wonderful job. So I disagree with what you said. That's all.
Okay. All right. Nonetheless, Nashville's going to be awesome. SEC tournament's going to be legendary this year.
I don't know if I can get down there. I do the Big East every year. This might have to be the year that I either do this. The problem with I was thinking the SEC or the Big Ten. The problem with the SEC is this.
What's the problem?
That while it is not true across the board, it's definitely true on Sunday. The SEC tournament, for whatever reason, seems to have less impact on seeding or selection than any other high major conference tournament.
Is that the SEC's fault or is that the committee's fault?
It's the committee's fault. And, I mean, I'm telling you, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 SEC title games over the past 12 to 15 years, I'm not kidding, like, that game on Sunday, which tips at 1, it's done by 3:15. It just doesn't seem to me like usually the winner or the winner of that game typically does something that should add one more data point to its resume that says, okay, that actually should matter for like it being a 1 seed or getting from a 3 to a 2 or whatever it is. Okay, whatever, or the team that makes the title game might have been on the bubble and like, you know what, maybe they're safe now. Maybe they got to like an 8 or 9, and then you look and they're like still going to Dayton or whatever. I bring that up to say I kind of want to go, but I also am like, if I go and you got all these stacked teams that are making the tournament anyway, like, do I need to? I might. I'm considering that of the Big Ten. We'll see. Love the Big East. I've covered it plenty. We'll continue to cover that
Sometimes
conference.
You just got to change it up,
But I like to change it up if I can. If I can.
Healthy. Well, that'd be fun.
We got off the track of the things that are for real or not, but I think that pretty much gets it done. The only other one might have been like TCU beating Baylor, but that's way more about Baylor. That was a late Sunday game. Big 12 put that game on in the middle of Bills versus Ravens. I have no idea why. I did have it on the small iPad as the fam and I were watching Bills Ravens go down, but I think that's more about Baylor. That's been a little bit of a letdown here. Let's talk Big 12 real quick, and then I actually do have a couple more SEC questions for you. Big 12. Iowa State loses at West Virginia.
They're fine.
I think this is going to be West Virginia has a number of really quality wins. They're probably going to make the NCAA tournament in year one under Darren DeVries, which is an overshoot massively of expectations. Was not the thought going in by many people outside of Morgantown. Ears fans, shouts to you. That is a really awesome thing to see in year one. I don't take anything from Iowa State losing this game personally. What I am intrigued on is, and I wonder if you watched it at all, I know that Houston beat UCF. I saw the play. Juwan Roberts gets the bucket, less than 2 seconds to go. That's the battle of the space cities, by the way. Houston and Greater Orlando. Houston continues to win. They've won 10 in a row. They still don't have like a real resume win yet, but those are coming if they can pull them off there. I think those were the two most significant. We mentioned Texas Tech beat Arizona. I don't know. Maybe you think they're super disappointing. I don't know. It was one loss, their first loss in like a month. I don't take too much from that, and then I take nothing from Kansas beating Kansas State by 10. That game was on CBS, but that was a nothing result. Talk to me, Big 12. What'd you see? What do you think?
Houston was down 8 at halftime, man. Like, it's a gritty team. They're tough. Like, obviously, very well coached. They got great guard play. They're tough. They're just tough. They've always been tough. There's some of these teams, Norlander, it's like, it doesn't matter what you do in the regular season. I need to see it in March. And that's not fair. I know that's not fair. But, like, that's where I am. I'm tough to please. Like, Houston could win 28 games this year, and I'd still be like, get it done in the tournament. And that's not fair because it's 40 minutes, and if you have an off night, you're going home. But that's where I am with Houston, man. I know about the metrics. I know what your boy Torvik has to say. I know about Evan Mia, okay? I know about all these guys. They love them. They love Houston. But I need to see it in March, man. Sorry.
Okay.
Not sorry. I will also say this. Arizona continues to lose. You had something earlier in the year. I don't know if you still are of the belief that Arizona is the most disappointing team in college basketball.
No, not even close, man. That's to your like.
Did you not say those things a couple weeks ago?
Yes, when Arizona was 4-5 on December 15th, they were the most disappointing team because they were a preseason top 10 team that was sub 509 games into the season. That's no longer the case. They lost at Texas Tech by 16. They did get run. I didn't see the game, but that's obviously a pretty big gap there. But prior to that, they hadn't lost since mid-December against UCLA. So it's their first loss. I'm not going to take too much from it. They got to play Oklahoma State on Tuesday. They lose that, then we can circle back. And it's not that they can't lose. They could. I don't think they will. But they've got Oklahoma State, then they're home to Colorado, home to Iowa State, at Arizona State, at BYU. If Arizona is going to be a top 20 team, 2, 3, 4, I say it loses only one of those 5 in that stretch here. So we'll see what they can do.
Okay. I need to ask you about a bad loss from the weekend. Gonzaga. Santa Clara. Okay, you lose at Oregon State in the midweek. Okay, I get it, man. You haven't been to Corvallis in like 2 decades or whatever. Okay, fine. Tough. They got the chainsaws. It's tough.
Yeah.
I don't know what quad Santa Clara is, Norlander, but if I'm guessing, it's going to be...
I'll tell you right now. Hold on.
Third? Quad 3?
I'm going to say that.
Guessing?
I'm looking right now. Hold on. I got you.
What's going on in Spokane, man?
That was a quad 2 loss. How about
quad
that?
Quad 2. Okay. Good for you, Santa Clara.
Quad 2 loss for Gonzaga.
But they lose at home in the kennel to Santa Clara. Like, what's going on, man? Are the Zags bored? Like, what's going on?
No, they can't afford to be bored. Their record's not good enough to be bored. They are a defensive sieve for the most part. Hold well, they're still top 20 in the metrics despite a 14-6 record.
See, that's why these metrics, man. Y'all need to get off Excel.
We're not doing this every show with you in the metrics. It's because their offense has been pretty good, and they've absolutely rolled a lot of teams, and that's helped their efficiency to this point.
Are you worried?
I'm not worried. We don't do the how worried. We do not. Listen, as a rule, we do not do the how worried are we about this team. Okay, we can talk about
when. I mean, we're
I'm
less
just
than
saying,
2 months out till brackets.
Gonzaga could lose their next 7 games in a row, and I'm not going to be worried about them. I'll just talk about how bad they are. But personally, on an emotional level, I'm not going to be affected by how good or not Gonzaga is. So I'm not going to worry. That's all. I'm not going to go to bed at night worrying about, Mark Few or anything.
Mark Few?
Yeah.
You never have those thoughts as you're putting your head down on the pillow? What's going on in Spokane?
I'm not thinking about Caleb Battle and how he's going to embrace the day. Yeah, that's not my not my deal. It is a bad loss. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost a really entertaining game in overtime on CBS Sports Network on Thursday night, and then they got dropped at home. To me, it's the allowing 103 points to Santa Clara. That's really eye-popping. We need to get through the next stretch of the next 3 games and see what happens to Gonzaga before we might have to have a conversation about if they missed the NCAA tournament for the first time in our adult lives. They're at Portland. They haven't lost to Portland in a generation. That's not an exaggeration.
Pilots.
Go check the stats on the Portland-Gonzaga series. Lopsided does not even begin to describe it, okay? So, in fact, I think I'm doing this off the top of my dome. I think if they beat them again, this could be wrong. This could be entirely wrong. I want to say if they beat them again and they play them on Saturday at Portland, I want to say they're really close to the all-time record for most consecutive wins versus one opponent. I think that's the case with Gonzaga and Portland.
Well, it's inauguration.
I'm almost positive.
The fact checkers are going to be feasting today, so maybe somebody will.
I'm almost positive that Gonzaga's next win over Portland ties the Syracuse Colgate record, which was like 60 or so games. I'll have this. You know what? I'm going to look it up. I'll try and get it in this Wednesday's court report.
Let's go. Let's
stumble upon that. They should win. Then they're home to Oregon State. Keep it high. I mean, Oregon State just won. Those are 2 games in kind of close quarters. I kind of dig that. And then they're at St. Mary's on Saturday, February 1st. It's a troubling loss. If you're a Gonzaga fan, you're gripping a little bit here because you've gone from a team that at the end of November, you were 7-1. The one loss was in overtime to a West Virginia team. We weren't sure how good or not it was. It looks like that's a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
In the Bahamas. And at the end of November, Gonzaga was fairly evaluated at that point in time as one of the 10 to 12 real Final Four candidates in the sport. They go on to lose by 1 in a really awesome game against Kentucky. They lose by 6 against UConn in Madison Square Garden. They lose to UCLA in LA at the end of December, and they haven't, their best wins are Baylor, which they routed them on the season opener. Arizona State at home, and the Arizona State was competitive in that game. They're not a factor in the Big 12, and then they won at San Diego State in November. So Gonzaga is piling up losses and is putting itself. This is the second year in a row where Gonzaga is basically like going to be on the back end of January with like just kind of like super hazy NCAA tournament prospects. Now, a year ago, they did this. They beat Kentucky in that abnormally scheduled non-conference game in the middle of February, which jolted them, and then they took a speed ramp to the tournament. They made the Sweet 16 for the 9th straight year. But we'll see if that process can repeat itself again. They got to fix the defense. And there's a lot going on with the Zags. They feel as dangerous. I'll tell you this. I'll put a bow on it. They feel, because of how good they are on offense, they feel as capable of making the Elite Eight versus losing by 8 to a first-round opponent as maybe any other team in the country. Just kind of like spin the wheel, and either result's going to pop up. Keep that in mind with the Zags. If they lose 2 of their next 3, they would be at 15-8, and unquestionably a bubble team, and maybe at 15-8, if they really did lose 2 of their next 3. So let's say they beat Portland on the road, but they lose at home to Oregon State, and then they lose at St. Mary's. I think they'd probably be out of the field at that point. But I don't get into the bracketology stuff until we get to February, so we're not going to get too nuts on that.
I mean, February's right around the corner, buddy. I mean, I don't know what calendar you've been looking at.
We got 10 days. We got 10 days. We got plenty of results to get to when it comes to all that stuff. Trying to think if there's anything else that we didn't talk on the Sunday show that I wanted to bring up with you. We've talked a ton. Oh, did you see? I'd say there are 2 notes. One, when the poll refreshes today, we're going to have a lot of shuffling because there were only 7 teams last week that were either ranked or will be ranked Monday. There are only 7 teams that are either in the poll now or will be that didn't lose. So a ton of ranked teams lost, and some lost twice. Auburn, Duke, Houston, Purdue, Wisconsin, Michigan State, all of those teams went 2-0, and then St. John's going to pop into the rankings. They didn't lose, so they did well for themselves. So expect a major shuffling of that. And then unrelated to the rankings, a shout to Rhode Island, which won on a wild buzzer beater, and then also Dayton beat Loyola Chicago on a day where they honored their longtime SID, Doug Housechild, who has been the SID of Dayton men's basketball for more than 40 years, is an alum of the school. Just a guy who has always been super helpful. I saw him in Maui earlier this year when Dayton played out there. He got honored. He's going to retire in June. And on this day of all days, Loyola Chicago gets a bucket with 5 seconds to go. Then Dayton, they pull off like a half-court, mid-court alley-oop to win it, essentially at the buzzer. Really cool stuff. You almost never see a game end that way. The Flyers have had a wild season. They're 12-6. They've taken on some bad losses. This game was won in overtime. Dayton wins at 83-81, so it was probably should have gone to double OT, but it didn't. Loyola Chicago started hot this season. It was an 8-0 team, and now it's 11-7. It's completely fallen off. It's a super weird situation there, and that goes to the A-10 in general. We'll save that conversation for another day, but the league...
There's your A-10 update, ladies and gentlemen.
Take it easy. Dayton with
who's in first place in the Atlantic 10 without looking?
I would, you know what? I know this is going to be wrong now because I've been monitoring this. I wanted to say the Bonnies, but I know the Bonnies lost because I've been debating doing a Bonnies story, but they got taken out by Duquesne. I'm gonna blindly guess. See if I can get it in 2. My first guess is St. Louis.
That's incorrect.
Okay, my second guess is George Mason.
George Mason has a half-game lead on the Billikens, the Dukes of Duquesne, and VCU. So there you go.
Yeah, there's a whole, like the A-10 is a beautiful mess. It has now played itself probably into 1-bid territory after it really, like mid-December, it had a chance to be a 3-bid league. It was sitting very pretty at that point, and now there's been some regression to the mean, and here we are. There we go.
A-10, baby. Let's go.
What else you got?
That's it on the Hoops Talk, man. We will be back later in the week, question mark, or
we'll
fans
see.
having to wait a week?
I think we're almost definitely into a twice-a-week rotation next week, but if we can get you another show, I got a few things I'm juggling later this week.
Juggling, yes.
Doing a few different things there. So it's possible we get you either a Wednesday or Thursday show, but we got to see how this.
It's not up to me, folks. It's up to Norlander and his schedule. There will be a Tuesday CFP recap show. The whole gang's getting together. We're going to talk about Ohio State's blowout win over Notre Dame, and find a way to make it interesting. I don't know, man.
Did I get a score prediction from you, by the way?
Yeah, I'll give you one. Earlier in the show, Norlander has Notre Dame hanging 31 points on the Buckeyes in a 31-26 win. I'm not rooting for this. I don't want it to be this lopsided, but I'm going to give you Buckeyes 28-10 over Notre Dame. I think this is going to be a stinker.
If there's a 28-10 game, I'm telling you, TV, keep the game on, but it's going on mute, and I'm diving into the court report by like 10:15 tonight.
You're not. You're going to dive into Big Ten basketball. You're going to have that god-awful game on the side screen. Who's playing tonight? Somebody in the Big Ten's playing tonight.
Rutgers at Penn State is tonight.
Oh.
6:30 Peacock situation. So that game is mostly like that game's done by the end of the first quarter of the CFP title game. I will be watching that. Georgetown plays at Villanova.
Oh,
Georgetown is 12-6 and dropped 4 in a row after getting off. There's a number of teams that got off to hot starts and have been slipping. And then Nova has this game at home. it's not a super appealing game, but there's a lot going on with this. Like, is Georgetown going to be okay in year 2? We'll see. Villanova, that's a hot seat situation there. So, but there's not a ton of hoops on tonight, which is welcome with the CFP and all that stuff. And then Tuesday is not loaded either. Your must-see games for Tuesday are Wisconsin at UCLA, another Peacock situation. Do you have a Peacock subscription?
I do, because I'm an EPL guy. I love the footy.
There we go.
I do.
Not for Big Ten sports on Peacock, but for the English Premier League. Okay.
I'm fine watching college basketball on Peacock. I don't have a problem with that. I can navigate with the best of them, but EPL greater than Big Ten regular season basketball. Come on, let's be honest here.
Your games to watch on Tuesday are Wisconsin UCLA is probably the most compelling game, but like Louisville at SMU.
There's another one in the ACC. We've already talked about it. 9:00 tip at the Joel. North Carolina at Wake.
I know. I'm getting there.
Big one.
You also got like Mizzou at Texas. Texas, you're going to lose again. Texas is going to become an Arkansas situation in the SEC.
Dude, the Arkansas thing has gotten that's gotten worse since the last time we talked.
I know. It's bad. I know. There's only like 3 teams that have got to win a league game at the high major level in Arkansas.
Like, I got Arkansas folks being like, has the game passed Cal by?
It's not just Arkansas folks. There's a lot of folks that out there. Also, Mississippi State at Tennessee, 7 Eastern on Tuesday.
That's a good one. The dentist going into Knoxville. Let's go.
Sure.
Nobody talks about Mississippi State, man, and I get it because they're in Starkville. But like Chris Jans, like what he's done there, that's impressive.
He's done a great job. There's a like for the diehard college hoops fans. There's a lot happening on Tuesday. Like Vandy plays at Alabama. No one expects Vandy to win, but what if they make it interesting? What do we got? Creighton at DePaul. Like Creighton just beat UConn on the road. Are you going to get tripped up by DePaul and Chris Holtman? There's just stuff to keep.
Norlander,
Arizona at Oklahoma State. It's not a compelling matchup, but Arizona don't lose at Oklahoma State. There's just a lot there's a lot of traps out there on Tuesday. It's Tuesday night.
You need to bring your A game for for this week, because there's a lot of folks that are coming in under the tent after tonight's festivities wrap up in Atlanta. Okay, I know you think that they're listening to you when you're covering the Peach Jam.
Oh, they're dialed in.
And there's a few that are.
Oh, they're
But, I mean, everybody's getting ready to head over to the college basketball community. It's for you and your takes.
We're going to try and make something happen. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a late night Wednesday show for all I know. I don't know.
Late night? I don't love the sound of that at all. I got to be honest with you. Anything that involves the word late night is, I don't love that.
Suddenly it is on you. It looks like you might be dictating.
Your boy likes to get his bedtime routine started a little early. So, folks, that's the show. There will be no now spinning.
There's no now spinning?
Do you have time to talk music? I got kids that are getting ready to bust down the door here,
I can actually hear my kids outside playing in the snow right now.
So let's save it for the next show. That's fine. I will throw a band out there for you to check out. I don't know if you're looking for new bands. Why don't you check out these Canadian dudes called Surf Hat? It's a band. It's a funny name. I know it's a funny name. It's a bunch of Canadian dudes. It's like 3 dudes, but they've got an album. It's kind of catchy. I'm not going to lie. It's like, I don't know what your snow vibes are, Norlander. When it snows, for me, I don't want to listen to anything that's like super upbeat. I like it to be just kind of chill.
I have a number of winter album artists. I get into that big time. Yes.
There you go. Like, I'm a big Fish guy. When the snow falls, give me Round Room. Like, I don't need a rager, okay? I don't need Fall 97. I don't need the funk. I need something that's just kind of like, like,
I hear you. That being said, like Farmhouse is definitely like a spring summer album for me.
See what I mean? Yeah. So give me Round Room. Give me Undermined when the snow starts coming down.
I don't know.
I know you're more of a Big Boat and
definitely not Big Boat. Big Fuego guy, but Fuego's that's not a winter record for me either. No.
Yeah, Fuego's kind of got some bangers, man. Watch out for Fuego. Anyway, check them out. Surf Hat.
All right.
There you go. There's your now spinning. We'll discuss the Bonnaroo lineup the next time we discuss, because I need some time.
I haven't seen it yet, so I will not look at it.
Okay.
Specifically,
keep it under wraps. Keep it under wraps.
Try and avoid the lineup.
How the mighty have fallen. Bonnaroo 2025 lineup.
Oh, you're teasing it the other way.
Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate you. Enjoy the College Football National Championship game. We'll talk about it on Tuesday. Felder, Roddy, Wayne, myself, we'll have takes. Norlander, enjoy your MLK Day, buddy.
You too, bud.
Talk to y'all later.